Start with a pledge of allegiance. Okay, we'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I'll take a motion to open the meeting.
So we're,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
yes,
5 yeses. All right, so the first item on the agenda is public comment, and that is the portion of the meeting where if you have something that you would like to bring to the select board's attention that will not be covered on this evening's agenda, this is your chance to be heard. Is there anyone who has anything they would like to bring to the board's attention?
Melanie, I would just like to say a thank you to Butch Grabowski, who on Sunday, I believe, took his Kubota and cleared all the sidewalks down through the village and back. And he did it because he wanted people to have a safe walking area. So give credit where credit's due. Just a big thank you to him for doing that. So,
I understand it was done last year too with a bucket, am I correct?
the first year they got a bunch of snow blowers out. I don't think it was done last year with a bucket. I can't speak to that. I don't remember the whole thing being done. The very first year, we got a group together to clear it in time for the Christmas stroll or holiday stroll.
I got some pictures of the bricks, you may want to look at them.
Yeah, have anybody taken a look?
I know there are a couple that are deteriorating. Yeah.
There's some good dings in them. Which was one of the reasons why we weren't having that done until we had something to do it with. But, all right, does anybody else have anything for public comment? All right, seeing none, we will move right along to old business. And the first item on that is the approval of the December 21, 2021 Select Board meeting minutes. I'll take a motion to open that item. And a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. That item is open for discussion.
Look complete.
Let me just see, I had a couple of things. One of the things, and this was just a point of clarification, under new business, the non-residence application for purchasing the burial plots that had come in on November 6th, but came to the board on December 21st, had not yet gone through the cemetery committee's review process. So usually the cemetery committee assesses the validity of it, and then they bring that forward to the board. So we skipped a step there. So I just want to make sure, I did notice in the ordinance that that's clear again. So we just want to make sure that we're following those processes. That was all approved. And then I want to see one more thing here. I think that was all that I had on that.
The only thing I see that's missing is when we were dealing with the warrant, we had a question on a couple of items. And they're not listed on here, but from what I understand, we've got kind of a little bit of a mess, so we'll be talking about that later tonight.
Well, we are, and that was something I did also kind of notice as we were moving forward. The warrants in our meeting minutes is very just move the approval. But we generally have some questions about them, and we should have some way to track back if we've had a question to make sure that the questions were answered. But if we're not sure which warrant those are from, without some sort of a keyword in there that we can search, we may
Okay,
not.
what I mean, as you guys know, what I typically try to do is on Wednesdays, I follow up with responses to any questions that are raised just in the email to the group.
Right, but moving forward,
Okay.
if 5 years from now, Melanie Jewell's like, hey, when was that first discussed? And I try looking at it, it was on a warrant, and we don't have any recollection of any questions or concerns, we don't have a way to keyword search those.
Okay.
And if somebody can come up with a better way of doing it.
I mean, it should be listed in that. You know, our other basic comments are in there, so I mean, if we have a question on the warrant, it should be noted on that minutes.
Does anybody else got anything? No, Ricky, anything from you?
Nope, I'm fine.
All right. So, Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes,
Ann?
Yes,
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses, those are approved. Next up, we have discussion and consideration of the road committee's recommendations for the 2022 paving projects. Take a motion to open that item. Moved and seconded, that item is open for discussion. All right, so who do we have here to chit chat about this?
Well, unfortunately, Jason wasn't able to make it. Jack is here from the roads committee, but the background memo basically touches on what I presented to the board after we met with the Allstate Material Group, and that they felt like Minot Hill Road was a great candidate for chip sealing. They suggested a double chip seal, which is essentially 2 layers of the treatment. That would cost about $64,000. They, for the east-west lane, they suggested a shim plus a single chip seal. That costs about $47,000. And so if you combine those 2 costs with the cost of the other road projects, that would equal almost $850,000, which is sort of what we were talking about previously. Now, for that troublesome spot along the Horse Point Road, they felt like that could be addressed and kept in shape for 3 years by doing some crack sealing along the joints in the road, and then coming back and doing what is called a fog seal, which is liquid asphalt mixed with some grit, and it provides sort of a tacky surface that should hold for the next 3 years until we get around to paving that. And the good thing about that is the cost is pretty affordable. It's only $1 per square yard versus $2.50 for chip sealing. So Jason figured it was about a 300-foot stretch that we needed to address. And if that's the case, I mean, you're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of a $3,000 cost, which we could fund out of our general road maintenance budget. So that's not something we would necessarily need to include in the paving project. So just to recap, the road committee is recommending that we repave the Depot and Gupple roads, Old Route 27, Hewland and School Streets, Red Oaks Lodge Road, Lakeshore Drive, and the transfer station road, and then the remainder of the transfer station complex, and then do the chip sealing on the Minot Hill Road and the west.
did we ever get the question answered that I asked us, how this chip sealing affects motorcycle travel, since that Minot Hill Road is such a.
Yeah, so the only issue, Dan, is initially when they lay that aggregate down, it will be a little loose, but they come back in a day or so and do street sweeping on that. And then after that, it should be fine.
If we're gonna do that, we're gonna have to put up some kind of signage or something, just because I don't want somebody coming out around those corners down by Cameron Lumber and end up losing control or something.
Understood. And typically, just my own past experience, I've seen once it's laid down initially, the companies that do that do put up signs that just say loose gravel.
And did we check with Pro Seal to see if that $1 per square yard includes them getting trucks to Belgrade?
Yeah, I mean, this would be a very small job, so I did not check to see, sort of what the transportation cost would be. But when you're only talking about a 300-foot stretch, it would be a very small job. Pro Seal was the outfit that Allstate Material Group recommended.
Right. I just don't want us to plan on this amount, and then it becomes this amount.
Well, and I think one of the things that we could rely upon is simply the roads capital reserve. I think and that's somewhere in the neighborhood of about $250,000 right now. And I know that we plan on using that as a contingency for the paving project. But I think if that cost is any bigger than $3,000, I think that fund should be able to accommodate that.
Can we find out the number for tomorrow, since we're doing the.
I have a call in, to proceed.
All right, does anybody have any questions? Comments? Expertise to offer? Boy, it's a quiet group tonight. I'm a little bit scared. All right, so.
And we need a motion to.
Well, I think I would just assume we wait, but I would consider holding a vote because this really will go to the budget workshop tomorrow night, and then we'd have a solid number to plug in. I just want to make sure that what we look at overall is the savings that we're anticipating. And if there isn't going to be a significant savings to testing a new procedure in Belgrade, then is
Yeah,
it?
well, and the long spreadsheet here that I provided, if we were to repave the Minot Hill Road, it would be at a cost of about $175,000. Whereas doing the double chip seal would be $64,000. So, pretty significant savings there. And then repaving the east-west lane would be a $95,000 project, as opposed to $47,000 for the shim and the single chip seal. So, and so late in the day today, I've already begun working on the warrant, and I sent a warrant out that has some of this information in a potential article for that. So it is something that we can, definitely consider tomorrow evening.
The only thing on the Mighty Hill Road, something that Dan brought up at the last meeting, that big pothole, it is coming back with a vengeance again. But I agree with him, that probably should be cut out, dug out, find out what, there's something bad there, something, something's not good there, something gotta be dug out, fixed, and before you see what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's another small one that's coming, I noticed too, it's only about that big somewhere on there, I just don't remember exactly where it is, but it's down
That
that
one's
end.
back, that one's coming back. It actually. Definitely too.
Yeah, so, I would assume that what happened during the last paving project is were the potential bidders invited or encouraged or required to come out and visit the roads and take a look at them and offer any sort of thoughts as to additional work that might need to be done to them.
Yes. I'm looking at Jack, I'm like, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
but
the
the last
answer to
time
that
we
was
paved
yes.
that road was back when I was on board, remember we had some issues with the company. They
Yes,
come
when
back
they
and
had
do
to
some
come back,
repairs and
and
everything
they-
else.
didn't have it done before they couldn't finish anymore. We had the one that parked the trucks on the hot pavement when it was 90-something degrees
Yeah.
out on the Minot Hill Road.
Yeah, down in the dip there, but fuel, we had to have them come back and lay some more hot top and, yeah.
That's not part
We
of
had
it.
we had an issue with that road.
Yeah, we didn't. And then if we chip seal this, is this like a done deal? Because this is if this is the section that we're working on for the 3-year paving project. Are we going to be looking at paving the Minot Hill Road 5 years down the road?
Mhm.
Or we're going to do this and see how long it holds?
That's right.
Jack?
Yeah, just a budgetary note. The last 3-year program we did was covered by the 2019. Article 24, we appropriated $1,390,585. Over borrowing up to $923,000 and some change. If we round this one off to $900,000, that's $300,000 a year. If we did it in 3 bites, that would be appropriating essentially $300,000 this year. About $100,000 less than 3 years ago. Less mileage, of course.
Mhm.
It's the way the cluster of roads probably fell. So we could come in with quite a small request that we did 3 years ago. Now, who knows what the escalation is going to be in 3 years? But I wouldn't expect, my own personal guess, I wouldn't expect it to be any more than the current request for North Belgrade in 3 years.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? All right, we'll move this forward for tomorrow night.
But at this point, you guys are comfortable with this proposal.
I am. All right, moving on, we have discussion of the town's heating fuel assistance policy. Take a motion to open that.
So moved.
So moved and seconded. Hopefully these are fast this evening. All right, it's open for discussion.
So in addition to the track changes, which can be a little hard to read, I also put just clean copies there. Well,
So I think I would actually like to keep the word fund in that because this heating fuel assistance fund was set up on purpose for emergency fuel assistance.
okay,
So I don't want it to be just another policy or following along the GA or whatever. This fund was set up to help the folks in Belgrade who needed assistance with purchasing fuel. So if we can keep that word in there.
I had a question. Sandra. I had a question on the front page of the edited version where you have a comment, should we say the assistant administrator? And that needs to specify another position.
that's correct. So currently, the town manager is the general assistance administrator. But if I'm out sick or on vacation or something, then at the moment, Mary is the assistant administrator, and she handles any request for help that we may receive.
Mhm. And is there any advantage to listing that position as opposed to just saying other officials?
I just thought other officials was kind of vague.
Like someone could call you and you could be like, sure. Go
Go
step up 100.
Why not?
Come send the bill to the town.
And two, since the policy is, first you apply for general assistance to see if you qualify under the general assistance program. And then if you don't, then this policy could come into play. Then you need someone who can help determine whether or not that person is eligible for general assistance.
Mhm. So there wouldn't be a situation where both the town manager and the assistant administrator of the general assistance program would be unavailable.
No,
That would
because
be actually-
one of the things that we are required to do is if you look in our front doorway there's a sign that has, you can apply for general assistance anytime, day or night. Has my cell phone number on it. Cell phone number is also on our website as well, so that someone can always be reached.
Okay. So I have no problem if you want to say assistant administrator.
The only question I've got from looking at this too, I have to be thinking about it, is the amounts. What's a quart of firewood going for right now?
$270.
270. And how much is 100 gallons of heating oil right now?
Well,
Average?
we recently had a request, and because we get such a great rate from Augusta Fuel, it was, I think it was $2.04.
Okay, so it's actually better. I thought that the heating oil was actually going to be higher.
Well, and I think Dan, it typically would be, but we just got a really sweetheart deal.
Okay.
with Augusta.
I just wanted to make sure that the amounts are all equivalent costs.
Mhm.
Right, because
'Cause we could say-
K1 tends to
'cause
be.
we could say 100
fairly high.
gallons or, as long as we keep the equivalent cost, because if somebody has one thing and it's a lot less money, they end up getting 2 tons of coal or however,
Yeah.
1.5 tons of coal.
Yeah,
So I just want to make sure we're going to keep it evenly.
Well, to be fair, I do not know what the cost of coal or.
Yeah,
pellets
and
are.
I don't either. And it's just, I was just wondering if there was some way to make sure that the wording somehow to make sure that it was equivalent.
Yeah, in my 2.5 years here, we've only been asked to provide wood and heating oil.
And that's probably most of it. Other than that, you may see electricity once in a great while, especially now with heat pumps and things like that going in. Good.
Because it should be, if pellets are $5.50, get 40 pounds per bag, so 10 of pellets, you've got
About 250.
20 bags, so about $2.50 a ton. So that would be,
About the same
Better
as the
equivalent.
CMP bill.
Yeah.
So it's pretty close then.
I had a question on the revised one here, where it says applicants demonstrate need or available income to be considered for a grant. Didn't we take out grant language?
No, I think what you were removing.
Or what we're trying to-
Was just the portion about paying it back. So I think of a grant as a gift,
Right,
something you don't have to pay back versus.
Right.
Versus a loan.
I'm sorry, Carolyn, what was that you just said?
I had a question on, it would be under procedure 1C. Applicants who demonstrate a need and no available income will be considered for a grant. I was thinking all of these were basically grants.
There was previously reference to grant or loan, and the
Right.
loan has been removed.
And we also removed the disposable income piece.
Right. So I just didn't know if we needed that. Other than that, I'm fine.
We could get rid of that. Really doesn't change anything.
No, just the other comment that you raised, Anthony, about should the town seek to sponsor a fundraising event? Can we do that for a town project?
We could, but we would have to get voter approval to engage in that fundraising.
I think the way that we can do it is put a note in the town newsletter that says the town of Belgrade accepts donations for the heating emergency assistance fuel fund or whatever. That's what we've done in the past, and we did have, what is it, $4,000? $4,000 or $5,000?
$5,000
$5,000.
gift very recently.
If so, that should probably be put in the summer newsletter.
All right.
And we also may have some seasonal folks here that would be willing to contribute to the fund, that if we wait until it's into the fall, so maybe put it on a calendar for the season, that summer newsletter.
Maybe even we've got one coming up too in March.
Yeah.
So maybe March and June or something.
Mhm.
And do we want to try to maintain a balance of $4,000?
Well, right now, we currently have a balance of about 11,000. So in good shape. And, this year, I think we only actually had one grant from it. And that's from this past year.
And I think we're gonna get a few more this year. Especially if Carol keeps crying snow.
We want snow.
And remind me if I'm wrong, but didn't we at one point when the fund was set up, it seems like there was a point where the fund was getting sucked down and that the town, we may have agreed to supplement that fund, or maybe it was when we first set it up.
I can't hear what you said.
I don't remember if there was a point where the
That's
town
Ricky,
did
might know.
supplement the fund. Ricky, do you remember?
What was the question?
Do you remember, I'm trying to, Barbara had a question on if the fund gets down too low, do we have a mechanism in place to ensure that it stays at a certain level? And it seems like, I remember a time, and I don't know if it's when we first set the fund up, if we established the fund with the taxpayers' assistance, or if at one point we approved taking money out of maybe the select person's fund and contributing it to this because the fund was low.
I don't recall. I remember the fund getting started and used it much.
All right. Yeah, it seems there was something, I don't know which way we went, but, okay. So we don't have that policy yet.
Seems like we're set for this one.
Yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. All right, so this is really consideration of approving the updated version of the Town of Belgrade Heating Fuel Assistance Fund policy. So I'll make a motion that we approve the updated policy.
Second.
And any further discussion? Seeing none. Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Ooh. I was like, what's he
I know,
got?
you didn't expect that, did you?
Did not. All
Well,
right.
I'm not keen on it, but I'll just leave it alone.
All right. All right, next up, we have consideration of appointments. I'll take them, so we're going to new business. I'll take a motion to open the consideration of appointments.
So be it.
Moved and seconded. That is open for discussion. I did get a message from Linda Bacon that she's the chair of the Board of Parks and Recreation. And she did pop this out a few minutes ago. She said, "Hi Melanie, I had planned to attend the select board meeting tonight in support of the 2 new BPR applicants. The Belgrade Board of Parks and Rec voted unanimously to recommend them at our meeting last week. She says she's exhausted and she won't be attending." So, but she did want to put her full support behind them. So first up, we have Susan Baldick. I was like, eeny, meeny. miny." Oh. All right, Susan. So usually this is where we quiz you and, why would you like to be part of our Board of Parks and Recreation?
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Hold on, Ricky. She's going to tell us why she wants to do it.
You can save her time.
We could. Do you want to tell us?
Sure. So, I just want to get more involved in the community. I've been here almost 3 years, and with COVID, I haven't had a chance. And, I'm into health and wellness. Seems like a good fit. I've done other things where I lived before. Yeah, so I just want to be helpful and get involved.
We appreciate it. All right, so Rick, you still making that motion?
Yeah, because I still didn't hear the things you said, but that's fine. Yeah.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
And 5 yeses. Welcome aboard, Susan. And what'll happen is sometime next week, they'll have you come in and get sworn in.
Oh, okay.
It's very official. All right, next up, we have Jamie Dion for the Board of Parks and Recreation. You don't want me to do the meeting again? I'm like, I know you, I know you. All right, Jamie, why do you want to do this?
Pretty much the same reasons as Susan. I've been resident of Belgrade 15 years, so it's about time I get involved. But I came from a town on the Canadian border where Parks and Rec was a huge piece of the community. And when we grew up, there was always something to do. And I like to keep kids off the devices. I got 3 kids and I didn't know rules on their devices. So, just looking to get more involved, more programming for the kids and see what I can do.
What do you do for a DPS?
I work for Bureau of Highway Safety. So I work with Bureau of Highway Safety. I do the behavioral side of things. I have all the impaired driving programs. So more or less, I apply for grant funds to the federal government and I pass them down to subrecipients as a pass-through entity, and then I monitor their expenditures, and do their budgets and make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to.
I figured I'd ask in case we had enough contact to deal with crosswalks.
Well, we do have pedestrian safety programs and grants, but those mostly go, like I said, those towards the behavioral side of things, so more or less police departments and jaywalking enforcement, that type of stuff. But we do work with the DOT pedestrian.
Okay,
I move that we accept Jamie.
I'll make the motion.
moved and seconded. All right, any further discussion? Seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Welcome aboard, Jamie. And once again, we'll bug you next week. All right, next up, we have the consideration of bids for the purchase.
One
Oh,
more.
oh, whoops, sorry. Geez, look at me skinning right over. Just kidding. All right. Sorry, Richard Greenwald, for code enforcement officer. I will have you preface this one,
Sure,
please.
so Richard applied to be our code enforcement officer, and the interview panel, which consisted of myself and Dan, planning board chair Peter Rushton, and Tyler Evans agreed to interview him, and we were very impressed. Richard is a veteran who served in the Marine Corps. He previously worked as an inspector for the Lewiston Housing Authority. He really impressed the interview panel just with his maturity. He talked a lot about respecting people and how you work with people and just to be respectful and show respect towards them. We really appreciated that. I talked to one of his references who said about Richard that he's really cooperative, but he shouldn't be mistaken for a wet noodle. So he does have a little starch as well.
I think I know who said that.
And I'm happy to report that Richard has already begun his training process. I sent him all the materials. He delved into the 130-page packet on legal and enforcement issues, and today passed that test towards his certification with a very high grade. So
Now you have to hire me,
No,
right?
that's
Come on.
right. I'm like, you're like, and where's that go with my pay? Hmm.
So the interview panel, myself included, recommend that you appoint Richard as our new code enforcement officer. He will also be working about 24 hours a week in code enforcement and 16 hours a week in facility maintenance.
Does he know it's really 24 hours a day for code enforcement?
Yeah, he's very, he struck us as very enthusiastic, so that's one of the things we like.
Perfect. And are you still living in Litchfield?
I am in Litchfield. Yeah, I just moved there a year ago from Lewiston, but I'm originally from Waterville area. And as I was telling the panel when I was interviewed, I spent a lot of time here in Belgrade fishing in high school, and raising heck out on the waters. And I really love Belgrade, always has. I'm also a volunteer at the Travis Mills Foundation. And I just like being up in this area.
Yes.
I look forward to it.
All right, well, I make a motion that we appoint you as the town of Belgrade's code enforcement officer.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? You got anything you want to quiz him on, Ricky?
No, I'm fine. Let's give him
Give him a while.
we'll give him a shot at it and see how he does.
All right, so your vote is yes?
Yes.
All right, Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Welcome. And then I'm sure we all have a few things we'll need to discuss with you, because there's been a hiatus. Perfect. All right, next up, we have the consideration of bids for the purchase of transfer station compactor container. Take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. That item's open for discussion. Thank you, folks. Have a good night. All right, Bruce, do you want to lead this one? How do you want to do?
I had Probably Anthony, the Basket's got all the numbers in front of it.
Yeah, so, and Kitty is a little under the weather, I texted him, but I don't know if he's gonna make it on or not. But we did get 2 bids, both for the 45-yard and the 50-yard. Kitty and Bruce are both recommending the 45-yard container. And so the low bid on that would be $18,850 from Atlantic Recycling Equipment. And then the question is sort of, where we pay for this from. We could pay from the solid waste capital reserve, and then look to maybe replenish that fund with some undesignated funds in 2022.
Why the 45 yet over the 50?
Right, that was what I was gonna ask, is why did you decide on the 45 over the 50?
It will last longer and it will take more pressure. How it's built. Waste management explained it to us is the square 50 yarders, they bow out more and they have more blowout. That's why we have, that's why we're at, because we're blown, it's blown out. So you can do more, more PSI pressure on these, they hold out. That's what most all the other towns have, is 45 yards.
So those are octagonal shape as opposed to square.
Correct. That's the main reason, is just to hold up, try to get that most out of our back for, container, basically.
Because then why was it we had them, because I feel like we had the discussion that the 45 was gonna be better, but we still had them each bid the 50. And was the 50 just gonna be, see where we came in at?
Basically, yes.
If it came in, the costs were equivalent.
Did Ricky hear his thing? Ricky can't hear.
Ricky, did you hear what Bruce said?
Yeah, pretty much. It's whatever. You know what?
45 yarder will take more of a beating than the 50 with less bowing out on the sides.
Well, if you remember what they told us when they came in and talked to us, they were worried about being overloaded. And I don't believe that's the case at all, but to pay back that extra 5 yards is, you got to look at that end of it. It's 5 yards more every time they go. Whatever they want to do, it's fine.
I mean, we do send the truck out overloaded every load. I will say that every time they go out of there, they're overloaded.
So Bruce says they leave overloaded every time.
They get complaints every month.
Whatever.
Oh, I was waiting on something better than that, Ricky.
You know what? I don't know how to really know that. I mean, they're getting a slip on what that load weighed, not the total weight, the truck and everything. You got to look at everything. You can't just look at that load.
And I agree with you on that, because what it is certain trucks that they pick up with, that's when I think they end up overloaded, is a certain, if they send the wrong truck to pick it up, one truck's heavier than the other truck.
I've never seen one stop yet by the way wagon.
And do we get penalized?
We pay the fine if they get caught overloaded, yes.
Well, if they're sending the wrong truck, that's one we'd be fighting.
Right, but I don't know how you prove the wrong truck. I just know, some trucks are heavier than other trucks.
And they've been in that business long enough. They know what they can haul legal and what they can't.
And that's why we contract with them, right?
I really don't care. The 45, if that's what they think that's what we need, let's go with it, see what it does.
All right, so you make a motion that we approve for the
28
45
yard. Yeah, 48, 45 yard, yes.
for 18,850
Yes,
from Atlantic Recycling Equipment LLC.
yes.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. Let's get ourselves a container. So we retiring one and then we weren't gonna get much for scrap metal, right? But we can still get a couple $100 or something. Okey-doke. Next up, we have consideration of the cemetery ordinance rewrite. I'll take a motion to open that item. Moved
Hey,
and
can we go-
seconded.
Can we go back to the other one for just a minute? Doesn't that container belong to Waste Management? They said they kind of fixed it up for us to use. So we,
Or was it our container and they were fixing it up?
No, our container, I guess, is already kind of destroyed or whatever, so that is theirs, but they've been switching containers in and out and not charging us, you know, ours that we bought are, I guess, long gone already. So they. gave us-
I don't know how we can send their container out for scrap. That's what I'm getting at. If
I would
it's,
have to check with
they need to
them.
take care of it.
I got another question then. If they're switching out containers back and forth, we're gonna get our new container back?
Yes, because it has our name on it. They'll have a town Belgrade written on it. It comes back. What it is,
I want to make sure we get a
I know, I'm
good
like-
one back.
I'm like, do we need to buy two so we can switch them out?
we do have to. This will be replacing a bad one. We have two now. And yes, the bad one will go, so we'll still have two. So what it is when they take one, they'll dump it, it sits there in Norwich Walk until we get another full one. They bring the empty back, take the other, you know, just how they transfer it back.
So should we label both containers?
Yeah, but yeah.
Okay.
everybody with Belgrade.
Just checking.
Yeah.
Like,
Even the containers, the ones that we own, they have our name on it.
I'm switching them out for somebody else's wonky one. All right, cemetery ordinance rewrite. So we have in our books the current ordinance and then the ordinance rewrite. We already did a motion to open us, so it is open for discussion.
Pretty steadily on it, and there's probably still some tweaking we have to do, but this is what we present to you to see if we can have new ordinance in effect.
Repeat what was said. I couldn't hear it.
Well, Phil said they've been working on this pretty diligently. He said, you know, there may be a couple little tweaks that still need to happen, but overall, this is what they'd like to present to the board for consideration. Did I surmise that pretty good? Okay,
That was from Phil.
that was from Phil.
Okay. And the rest of the cemetery committee has looked this over and okay with it?
We have quite extensively looked it over. We've been working on it probably since September.
Okay, thank you.
Last time it was done was in 16, so it was due for a makeover.
When I did notice you had in here every 2 years from now on,
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
so,
And I don't think we have to go over the whole thing, that we should be able to make amendments to it, you know. Rather than rewrite the whole thing,
yep, just do an amendment to it and a reapproval.
exactly.
So I did notice that effective with approval of this ordinance, there'll be no new bushes or shrub plantings.
That's right. We want to have it pretty clear so that the maintenance crew can, you know, mow extensively without having to go around a lot of things, and it requires a lot more weed whacking and so forth, so the less they have to go around, and we'd like to have it free and clear bushes, trees.
A lot of the other towns have similar policy. That there are no bushes, no shrubs. People will, all, you know, they'll obviously gonna put plants and so forth, but then in policy it says they have to be removed by a certain date.
Right.
But we have had
issues with, in the past, we've got some big bushes up there and people are supposed to take care of them and they don't. And then it's up to the crew to trim them or what have you, if they're totally dead, to remove them.
And then people complain if they planted a shrub there and then they come back to visit and it's gone.
So obviously the ones that are there now are kind of grandfathered, but they still have to maintain them.
Right.
So I had a question on that. So I know at our family lot, we have 2 green bushes of some kind that are getting larger, and our plan was to remove those and put smaller ones back in. Under this policy, we could not do that? That there's no grandfathering of what's there?
Right, but if you remove it, there's no replacement.
So then the alternative is we just leave them and let them get bigger.
It's a license they have to do. Right. But it's your responsibility, you or somebody in your family, to maintain them and keep them trimmed.
We do keep them, I mean, we do, except we're at the point where we'd rather have smaller ones in there and, take out the ones. I mean, we're responsible about it. Under this policy, we couldn't do that.
There's several reasons why, it's not only the maintenance, but people, 99% of the shrubs in in full cemeteries are not maintained. Nobody maintains them except the town will go through and maintain them if they don't get maintained. And what that does is, you gotta think of your neighbor, okay? So every lot is backed up to somebody else's lot. And so you've got a shrub and your shrub gets overgrown, now it's overtaking somebody else's stone. And now you're doing damage to your neighbor's stone. And that's the main reason why most of the towns have gone away from allowing shrubs in the cemeteries, is because of the stone damage.
Leave your bush.
Huh?
Leave your bushes.
I mean, we have the whole double lot, so there's no one else involved other than our family.
So is your lot like back to back?
Yep, the 2 of them, so it's a total of 16 spaces. So we have both sides.
So the only thing that jumped out at me that might need a little clarification is under section 12, the cemetery prices, 12.7. And this is any assignee of a lot or space or person who wishes to have a geranium planted on his or her space prior to Memorial Day may make a one-time purchase of up to 5 plants for $100 each. I'm assuming that means that every year there's going to be a geranium there for all. So that's where we may want the clarification. Because when you read that, it kind of looks like, well, if you want 1 geranium, it's $100. You could have up to 5 for $500, but it doesn't say that it's perpetual. So we might just want to clear that up a little bit.
Maybe if we just added the word planted on his per lot space prior to Memorial Day each year.
Yeah, just something simple like that. And that was the only thing really that I kind of marked up.
I actually had another one that I spoke to Mike about, but I think you were further down the line on this. It's talking about who can be buried in the lot, and it's spouse, parents, or children. And I would suggest that you add, it can be spouse or domestic partner. Because you have situations where it's a domestic partner. Now you would have to go before the cemetery board and say, gee, can I have my domestic partner of 15 years? It should just be a policy. And then you could insert under your definitions what your definition of a domestic partner is. And I had forwarded Mike some suggested wording on that is pretty prevalent out there, but I think it's something that as we're looking to do an ordinance, as we look forward, I think it will become more of an issue. So that was one. And then the other question I had, and it wasn't clear to me, I don't know who bought our lot, except my great grandparents are there. And it's a question of who's responsible, the assigned person. Well, the assigned person's long gone. So how that gets passed down, is it, in our family, we've never had a problem. It was my mother, and it's now essentially come to me. But that how, that upon the death of the assigned person, the family needs to let the town know, or that there be some situation so you don't end up with different family members perhaps coming and saying, well, who said you could make that decision? I mean, that we have a rule in there, and if people don't adhere to it, then you could deal with it on a case-by-case basis. But I would just offer that somehow you clarify that. Because there may be, in our situation, we've got empty spaces, and we've agreed as a family that if you want a full burial, you need to go find your own cemetery plot if you want to do cremation. So in our family, we're only going to be burying cremains on that lot. So, but that's a family decision we've made. But that the town doesn't get involved in trying to negotiate that with siblings or whatever. That so I would just put a little bit of work into that piece of it. So those are the two that I had that
So is
jumped out
this
at
under
me.
your definitions under the assigned persons?
Yeah, I think it would be under assigned person. Maybe you
Yeah.
clarify that,
Yeah. we can do that.
which is number 13. And then just include the domestic partner.
So the only question I have is under the, and I sort of agree with you about the domestic partner, obviously, that they should be allowed to be buried. And if you're the assignee or someone else, then to me, I think it's kind of covered in here that they're part of a family member,
That what?
that they're a family member. But domestic partner is in 2004 from the legislature. So are we gonna have to go back, or the town gonna have to go and say, okay, is this domestic partner truly living with you or someone else? You know what I mean? They gonna do some legwork on that?
I don't know. I don't know what the legislature said of that, other than
Yeah.
you're going to have, or we will have more and more situations.
No, I agree.
So I think we need to
But they have
address
to
it.
Register as a domestic partner with DHHS.
Yeah,
That can be defined in the first section
Yeah.
under the definition.
right. That's what I'm saying. You define it under your definition. So we put in what a domestic partner is, and then that they are eligible under the spouse or domestic partner.
Okay.
Under that wording, and then it's there, it's clear, you don't have to go through that.
I have a couple of questions. Are you done?
Yeah.
On the third page, under town sexton, A, B, C, and C, I just wasn't quite clear what that meant. Be responsible to grant permission to occupy lots, or I assume that's spaces, lots / spaced
Mhm.
spaces by a qualified person. So that means that the sexton determines who's qualified?
Who's qualified or has the right to be buried in the town's cemeteries? Yes.
So,
It's just,
we
it
have a
was just a little,
computer- we have a
I just found the
computer
wording a little complicated, so.
system? Okay, so we have a computer system, so if someone passes away, then, that they come to the town, the funeral director will call the town and say, okay, so-and-so has passed away, and they'd like to be buried in Pine Grove or one of the other cemeteries. So we have a computer system that's called Sims here in town, so then I assume that Chris will go into the computer system under Hano and say, okay, where's the lot? How many spaces are there? And is this person a resident of the town and eligible to be buried here?
Okay. So it's basically grant permission to a qualified person to be buried in that space.
So would it be clearer if it said be responsible to grant permission?
Or I would just say to grant permission, because isn't the response, you're giving him, he has the responsibility, right?
But he's granting permission for them to be buried because they
Right.
meet the qualifiers.
Right.
Right.
Grant permission to qualified person. But I was just trying to make it a little bit more
reader
concise,
friendly.
but
So,
I can just send you a suggestion if you, and then you can decide what to do with it. And then there were just a couple things with, I should have been an English teacher, I think. Under the disinterment or removal of bodies, where disinterment, we don't need those apostrophes, because it's just a plural. And not section 9, disinterments, it's just a plural without the apostrophe. But in section 6, where it's cemetery perpetual care account, it talks about money received going into the cemetery perpetual care account. And then it talks about accepting donations of land. And does that also have to do with the perpetual care account, or should that be like a separate heading if it's about accepting additional land? Just, I was just kind of surprised to see that under perpetual care, because I didn't know if the land, is the land itself held under perpetual care?
Town owns that lot, not the person.
Right. Right, I just didn't know, I thought the perpetual care account is like a fund of money.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
But the town can also accept donations of land to
That
create
would
new
be,
cemeteries.
Some, a person in town has some land that they wanted to donate to the cemetery,
Yeah,
Future cemetery.
future cemetery.
okay, I was just wondering if that should be a separate heading about new cemeteries or something, rather than being under perpetual care account, if it doesn't actually go into that
Probably.
account.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
But you've done a lot of work on this. Oh, and obviously you don't want alcoholic beverages, because alcoholic beverages and illegal drugs are strictly always prohibited. So you're pretty firm on that.
There will be no parties going on in the cemetery.
That's it. Let's take note.
Section 4.1 says the cemeteries will remain the property of the town of Belgrade. Very next one is 4.2. It says the right to purchase. We need to go back and change some language, because you're not purchasing a lot, you're purchasing perpetual care and you assigned a lot, right?
So you're purchasing the use of the lot,
No, you're actually purchasing perpetual
Right.
care.
perpetual care.
Yeah, what you're paying for is the care of the law.
Right, and with your purchase of perpetual care, you're assigned, depending on how much you pay, 1, 2, 3 lots, whatever it is.
And actually, I had a question on 4.2 where it says, the right to purchase shall not be granted to any person who was not a current resident of Belgrade for at least 3 years. Now, later on, you say there are exceptions to that. So I would put that in here, because if you read it, then later on you find there are exceptions. So I would add, who is not a current resident of Belgrade for at least 3 consecutive years, comma, or qualifies under the exceptions listed in
Right.
wherever it is.
4.7.
4.7, just so that here it says you can't, and then you come to the exceptions afterwards.
Right, yeah, I noticed that too. Good point.
So after 3 consecutive years, comma, except for those listed in section 4.7. And I believe I'm correct, 4.7 is the one where they have to fill out a form and then the select board approves it. Am I correct? Isn't that the process?
Well,
And I think that was all spelled out. It was just that we get there.
right, the board of select persons is the end of that. It goes to the cemetery committee first. They
Right.
make sure that.
Then
all
it
the
comes here.
boxes
Yeah,
are
I mean, I
checked.
knew that we'd done that, so. But it's a lot of work. I appreciate all the work you're doing on it.
So Anthony, did you get all those?
Yes, sir, I did.
Okay, thank you. I mean, I did as well, but I just want to make sure that we got them all.
So this,
And on 4.3, instead of the town clerk, it should be sexton.
I wondered if the town
Right.
clerk,
Yeah,
All the sexton shall keep a record.
he's the one that takes all the material, information down, puts it on Sims.
Bill, what section was that, please?
4.3,
and is there
instead
any,
of town clerk, it should be sexton.
and is there anybody, like, how often is that reviewed to make sure that we haven't missed any? Jack?
Question, who received the death certificate on first dies?
Sexton,
Did the second receive it or the town clerk?
Sexton.
Sexton.
Because when Penny died, I delivered it to the town clerk. That's-
Yeah, town office.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, and then they give it to the sexton.
Okay.
The
So
other,
how-
oh, go ahead.
Is it reviewed?
Is what review?
So just making sure that every death, just to make sure that there's more than one person who's overseeing. I mean, we all, some of us probably recall Anthony wasn't here, but when a previous sexton stuff was misrecorded or done differently, is there anybody who's overseeing the sextons?
No,
Sexton on a
that's
regular-
something, this office has got to get somebody else trained, but until you guys get a full-time, good full-time staff. at the end of the time, see how you're gonna handle it. I mean, because it's a lot to train at Sims program, it's a lot to it. So if you get somebody that's not gonna be, full-time or gonna be here a while, you spend all that time teaching somebody Sims program. And then they leave 6 weeks later. You just wasted all that time. You understand what I'm saying?
Well,
Is it,
maybe this might be something we want to talk about our new code enforcement officer and part of the additional job he's gonna be doing to make up his time. Maybe that's something we might find that would be a good thing for him to learn.
I mean, it's, in my eyes, I mean, it is between the sexton and facility maintenance. We have put so much onto that one person. He has no time for clerical work anymore. I mean, you really think, you guys sit down as a group and really think about it. The man has no time to do clerical.
That's why I've said over and over again, I feel like
You know,
we're putting if this one person is responsible for too many things, stuff falls through the cracks.
right,
And this isn't something that we can let fall through the cracks.
no.
Well,
I mean-
this like, in this somewhere, there should be a time frame when somebody comes in and pays for perpetual care. There should be a time frame when you're finally assigned a lot. So I know Danny Ketchel, and I myself, I paid for lots almost 2 years ago. Never been assigned anything yet.
The problem is that cemetery is not officially open until May.
Does it make sense to look moving forward to having the sexton be someone separate from the facilities manager?
Right.
I think that's a good point.
I think that's maybe where,
That's gonna entitle it.
We should be
another
moving.
employee, though.
I mean, at one point, it used to be that way.
Correct. That's when it was elected official. Well, they elected officials because elected officials was taking advantage of the people in the cemetery that were using the cemetery. That's why it got pushed to be appointed in a higher. I'll push out that elected official, because I was the one that got taken advantage of very seriously, so. My elected officials, so.
The other point, up at Pine Grove, under the Pine Grove, or what's left of it there's a long granite slab. And that was put there by Betty Grant after Clayton Grant died, with the intent that anyone who wanted to be cremated and did not want to be buried on a lot could have their name put there. So if the cremains are elsewhere. And I don't know if anyone, I think there are 3 or 4 names there. There's Clayton and there's Betty, and I think maybe Dave and Sylvia's daughter, I can't think of her name right now, but yeah, that may be something that should be addressed probably in the cemetery in these rules. And I don't know where the guidelines are, other than I was very good friends with Betty, and that was her intent when that piece of granite was put there. And I think Clayton died in 81 or 2. So I don't know if those records even exist, but that's something that,
So if it's not in a record, written record, there's not much you can.
unless there's something in Old Town reports, I don't know, but I mean,
Right.
because it's a big slab of granite with
Yeah.
2 or 3 names on one end. So,
Unfortunately,
Flowers on that every year.
unfortunately, our records from the mid-80s to basically when Scott took it over were, well, actually, until Mike took it over, and then Scott, it was 50.
206, 26, 7.
Weren't very good. There's some books and everything else, so
All the better to hide your misdeeds.
we're still struggling with that.
Yeah, because all that stuff had to be hand entered right into the SIM system.
Yeah. Like I said, there's books missing and
And basically covers probably from 3, 4, plans 3 and 4, and a few in 1 and 2. But other than that, there's not too much record. Who has been assigned or where they are. That,
Jamie had everything on like an index card. You know.
well, that's what you had for technology then, right?
Right.
Carol Sawyer had a index card, and then he had the big blue books, which I've only located 2 of the big blue books. I don't know if Chris thought he found the 3rd one, but I haven't actually looked at it yet.
I wonder if anybody's got them in town. I mean, a lot of the town data was being stored in people's barns and garages and
Unfortunately, the last person that had it was the last.
Sexton.
Yeah, last elected sexton. was the
And
last
who
one
is
had the
that?
books. Probably mean I can't say the name.
Yeah, we probably won't say it.
Huh?
I'll tell you later.
They don't live in the state of Maine anymore.
Right, is it Florida or something?
Yeah, somewhere down there.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. I don't think they would be with her, but I'm wondering if, at one point we talked about putting a call out there, like if you have town of Belgrade memorabilia or historical documents, if we could have them in the town for preservation, and maybe it's time to push something back out. And maybe even if we can do, Anthony, can we tackle something like that in the newsletter? Just maybe see if we can do a little box that says, looking for,
I know we just got some stuff on what Machias, Bill.
Yeah, which they have been sent down
They
there.
had one of a small book that had some stuff in it.
this is fine.
Yeah.
Well, the Historical Society may be able to help you in that search too.
Yeah.
They're pretty
But
active and
If we can find, anything we can find and preserve, anything that will be beneficial, because if we don't ask for it back, people are gonna pass away and folks are gonna get rid of it. All right, so,
Melanie, excuse me, is it okay if all the notes that you folks came up with, you send me an email or Phil, and is that okay?
Yeah.
So we make sure that we address them,
Sure.
Mhm.
and Anthony, and myself, and Bill. And just make those changes.
I was kind of hen scratching some stuff on the side, because I saw you guys doing the same, so I was like, you got this. Or do you want to just, if you can incorporate the stuff that's there, send it back out and then maybe we can sort of round robin it? If it
I think
gets,
I'm happy to send my comments over.
okay, so you're okay with that?
And Anthony said he was taking them down too, so.
Okay. All right, perfect. Is there any other comments or discussion on this?
So I have a logistical question. So obviously the voters would have to approve this. And I'm assuming we're gonna want to do that at town meeting. We need to have the warrant finished by January the 19th, and I don't know that we'll have everything here finished necessarily by then. I guess we could bring it back to you on January 18th for your approval.
Mhm.
But at that point, would you want to submit this to Bernstein Sure for any sort of a legal review? Which I think we could still do, since I assume that the warrant article would be something fairly short and simple. I corresponded today with our attorney about the subdivision ordinance, and he asked if this was a repeal and a replace for the subdivision ordinance. And so it may be just, the article might be something as simple as, do the voters approve repealing and replacing the cemetery ordinance? And then we post the cemetery ordinance. Of course, it can't be part of the ballot. But so I'm just wondering sort of how you guys anticipate this work. Go ahead and approve a really short warrant article like that. Let these guys finish their work, bring it back to you on the 18th. At that point, you want to submit it to the law firm for any sort of a legal review?
Does this really need to go to the lawyer?
I don't, Rick, that's why I'm raising the question. I mean, it's not going to cost us anything extra under our legal services contract. So out of an abundance of caution, if we wanted to do that, we could. That's why I'm raising the question, just so I can get in my mind sort of how logistically this is all going to work to getting it to the voters.
Right. It seems like it might not be a bad idea because Dan picked up on the language of, the right to purchase, that you're not actually purchasing a space, you're
Right.
purchasing the care.
Right.
So I think that the attorney would be likely to check up anything else along those lines.
If it's not gonna cost us anything, I don't think it hurts to do it, and it's part of our due diligence and making sure things are reviewed,
Yeah.
so.
You can interpret anything you want, any way you want. And that's. Go ahead and do it, whatever.
So if we bring this back for the 18th, and then can we just give Phil a heads up that it's coming electronically?
Yeah, and like I said, as long as we get it back from them before it needs to be posted as part of the early vote, but the absentee voting period.
Right.
I think we'd be okay. So essentially, they'd have a month, the law firm would have a month to get back to us.
Yeah,
Right.
that should be, I would think that should be enough time. There's not
Yeah, I
substitute.
would think this would be
It's
a-
not like the
Yeah, I think they'll
subdivision.
put a
ordinance.
paralegal on it.
Right. Call it done.
Okay, so we'll plan on bringing a
So, yeah.
revised version back to you on the 18th.
A revised version that needs no more. A revised final copy. How's that? All right, next we have the consideration of the annual town reports, dedications and memorials. And that is going to be in the new packet. Oh, no, that's my budget packet. Did we get a copy of those?
I thought so.
You got a copy of folks that have passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, looking at our desks.
Right there.
Yeah.
well, that was the cover, yeah, there's that, and then the cover's on the. first
Let
page.
me go make you a quick copy.
Yeah, so I have it in my email, but I didn't.
Full five of that.
I got my book. No. I must have picked mine up early. Yeah, because I remember I looked it over in the email.
It's in the same section in front of my warrant.
Just in the email. That's all I got. Is
I have it in front of consideration of warrant, which I don't know why it was there. That may have been me putting it there.
Well, his was in the same place and I didn't have anything else in front of mine, so I may just pick mine up early, but I didn't check my box today too to see if anything was tucked in there. Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is helpful. This is helpful to have this to see.
Yeah.
Because I was looking through, I could only find a couple. Excellent filing system. I'm sure I had dozens of these books, but
They're not necessarily in date order.
exactly, they weren't where I thought they might be.
Yeah.
So this is a list, and this is the updated list through, so through the 31st, correct? Because Mary was
That's
gonna,
correct.
okay,
Yeah, this is. for
yeah,
the
through
entire
December
year.
31st. So, and I did have an email where someone requested whether we could have the town report dedicated to Chance Carlson. And so they asked if there was a formal process, and I did come back and say that there isn't a formal process, but we do take that up at the board meetings, and that we do a dedication, at least one memorial, if not more than one. But that person's name would definitely be on the list.
It would be wonderful to recognize them.
I agree. So my recommendation for dedication would be to Gary Fuller. I'd like to see his 30+ years with the town of Belgrade recognized with the dedication of that.
I'll second that.
I think he's a logical one.
I wouldn't either.
So,
Okay, so dedication moved and seconded. Are there any more suggestions for dedication?
No.
Okay, seeing none. So moved and seconded. Okay, so all those in favor of Gary, of the 2021 annual report being dedicated to Gary Fuller? Barbara,
Yes,
Carol,
Yes,
Ricky,
Yes,
Dan?
yes,
All right, so town report to be dedicated to Gary Fuller. And how many memorials? Do we want to go down through and pick?
I would say definitely Chance Carlson. Well, that's just my opinion. Sorry.
Well, so, right, so Chance is one.
I had noted Dick Tripp and Charlie Stratton as possibilities.
Yeah. And Spiro Utites.
And is that usually just a page for each one of them in the inside? Or a half page?
Yeah,
It's
a
about
paragraph.
yeah,
Paragraph.
like a paragraph. The family, usually what happens with those is we reach out to the families and ask if they would pull something together for the town
Right,
about this person. And sometimes it's harder than others to get information, but it's usually about a half a
half
page.
a page.
Half a page. So here's.
about Don Perkins.
Skip and Vernon, they got a whole page for the dedication.
Perkins too.
Right, and then these
The
are the
other people had,
memorials.
you know, half a page.
Yeah.
Consider under the,
About Don Perkins too.
Yeah, we did just put Dawn on the list, and then who did you say?
Linda Vega.
Is she
she
two
was-
P though?
No, she was Mario Vega, used to be Vega Concrete, so it's Eric and Trish's. That's Trish's mother.
Yeah, and she like 40 something.
She was 66, but-
Okay, I'm thinking of the wrong one then.
But I know Derek being, fairly well known as a business person in town and stuff. Linda worked for the city of Augusta as town clerk, or one of the clerks for a lot of years. So it's a consideration.
And I think I'm missing a page.
There's 2 pages.
Oh, it's Violet I was thinking of, who was in her 40s. I think she was a Tukey. Shannon, Violet,
Shannon. Shannon.
yeah, Shannon Marie.
I
I
don't know.
think she was a Tukey. She was young, 47. All right, does everybody else have this list? Does anybody have any? I hand this off to you folks, if anybody wants to take a look at it and just weigh in on how many memorials and suggestions for them. Share it over each other's shoulders.
Go on this one, Bruce. You can have this one.
So just so I can double check my list here, I have Kent Carlson, Don Perkins, Charles Stratton, Richard Tripp, Linda Bayou, and Spiro Utites. Is that correct?
That's six.
That's it.
That's,
That's,
from looking at the other one, the previous years, it looks like 5 or 6. 6 has been the most that we've done. But it's nothing to say we can't do as many as we want.
There's one in the paper today, Mrs. G.
Mary G, she died January 1st.
Yeah.
That'll be next year.
Yeah,
Next
That would be
year.
next year's. I saw the same, I was like,
So when you do, your tidy, you might want to put spike in parentheses. 'cause you're not
right,
gonna
because
know.
nobody's gonna know in the Spiro.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so I was thinking when the family does, if we end up agreeing to do that one, that we would have the family would put Spike or in the. Anything else jump out at you, Bruce?
Nope. And what you guys have is-
The only other one I could think of is Peter McManus. I don't,
yeah, Peter, yeah,
I don't know how.
yeah. He,
He was here in the early
very,
days.
very active in the sailing club and
Yeah.
and moving that program forward. So I think probably that would be appreciated by the sailing people. And I think he helped start that sailing program at the Center for All Seasons.
I think you're right.
So, yeah, Peter,
That's 7.
that would be 7.
All right. So I make a motion that the town report include memorials to Chance Carlson,
Peter McMahon,
Charles Stratton Senior, Peter McManus, Dick Tripp, Spiro Utites, Don Perkins, and Linda Vega.
that should be
This
7.
is assuming that the families are
Yeah,
Yes.
great,
with the
Yes.
families.
with the families approval.
Second that.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes,
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. We've selected on memorial.
And what would you guys like to do about a cover photo?
So that's where I was getting to
Oh,
next.
sorry.
So Anthony had sent an email out saying he had solicited photographs from a local photographer for the cover. And I responded back and there wasn't anything else that came back and I don't, it's not that I negate that one person's photography skills, but I do, I mean, the first thought came to mind is if we're putting that out there, then we need to include other artists and it can't be but the town manager, solicited someone to produce something for the cover. Because then that's gonna spread like wildfire. And it's not one person's town, it's all of them. So I don't want any local artists to feel like they were not in consideration if they weren't friendly with the town manager. So I hesitate with us picking one like that unless we have somehow opened it up. And if so, how do we do that?
Well, it looks like in the past, there have been a lot of artistic photos, town gazebo, photo of rooms. How were those selected in past years?
The same way, the photo of rooms, there were photos that came in, there were various art photographers in town that submitted stuff to the town.
So we actually solicited,
I don't know
like
if
it
we
was an
solicited,
announcement
I
saying,
remember
send in
thinking
your
of a
room
couple of
photos, or-
names, yeah, and I'm trying to remember how we did it.
I think the gazebo was, we dedicated the park that year and that
It was.
that
and the-
aerial shot
And the
that
DOT took that
Alex did.
shot.
Oh, DOT
The
did that one.
DOT
Yeah.
took that shot. I mean, Mary just told me that she in the past, the town manager would ask her to go find a photo and she solicited a local photographer. She bring a photo to the board.
I mean, all the pictures you sent out were nice. But I honestly think because Gary Fuller was such a big part of this town, that I would not have a problem having some kind of a photo of the area.
I mean, and we've done that in the past. We did Bob Martin, we did Spike Carey, we did Frank Farnham. You know, folks that have that big of a presence in the
Did the
town.
Hammonds, right?
Yeah,
Skip
we
and
did the
Bertie.
Hammonds.
He's got a pretty nice picture of him at his cabin that he had built a couple years ago. And I kind of thought that might be a nice picture to have on there. It's a good picture of him. Got it someplace.
Rick, did you say that you have that?
No, it was on, he's had it on Facebook several times. I bet
Okay.
he's probably got a picture of it.
Yeah, I think I saw
Well,
it.
it
I
might
think
be
it was
that
on
it's-
one of those photo boards at his.
And it might be that
Similar.
his family has a
I'm
picture
sure-
that they
I'm
think
sure
would
Ellen
be
probably has
the
it.
right one that they would like,
I
so.
mean, I would recommend that option first. If his family doesn't want it on the cover,
Right,
then we can go with Plan B.
Yeah.
But I.
That-
so let's figure out what Plan B is if they say no. And we need the back cover too, right? Or not?
I think last year was the first year that we actually put a photo on the back cover. And that was because we had the the frontline workers on the front with their mask on because of
Right.
COVID, and then we took the photo
Oh,
put on the back without their.
Without,
No.
them,
Oh,
yeah,
On
back
the
first.
front is without masks and on the back is
Yeah.
masked.
yeah.
And I have 2018, that was the only other one I could put my hands on, with our notes from the town meeting. There's nothing, there's no photo on it.
Yeah, I don't recall, I mean, I got a stack of them in my
Yeah.
office. I don't recall seeing photos on the back
Yeah.
of the last few years.
And I think maybe moving forward, what we could do is actually put something out there that residents can submit photos that will go on the town website. And then maybe over the course of the year, the photos that have been on the town website are in consideration for being on the town report cover. Because then we do open it up and it doesn't become why didn't anybody ask me?
You know, I know both Jay and Alex have had beautiful drone shots that
Absolutely.
they've been doing.
Yeah.
That, even one of the drone shots on the back, if Alex is, but I think we should have Plan B. So if we check with Gary's family and they say, no, I don't want it on the cover it's too difficult for whatever
Right.
word, then we should say, okay, we'll put something out and ask people to submit photos over a week's period or something and, give them a
What's-
window
what's
of
the dead-
time. And
What's the deadline?
We need to have it finished, I believe by early to mid-February,
Oh, so we've got time.
not as much as you think.
Well, if Gary's family says no, we could ask them to do it, so we'd have it for next
I will reach
meeting.
out to Ellen and to one of the daughters that I corresponded with during that time, just to see if that's something that they would like to do, and I'll offer that, if you'd like to write something, the dedication yourself,
Right,
Yeah,
be appropriate and appreciated.
absolutely. Okay, is that your motion?
Yes.
I'll second it, so you don't have to repeat it. So the motion is to be that the cover be dedicated to Gary Fuller. If the family declines the dedication, then we will request photos from
Local,
local
or from
residents.
town.
They
resident
they could decline the photo,
Would
still
Still have
accept
a
the photo
dedication.
on the cover, but still accept the dedication.
Yes.
Sure, they're probably gonna be very happy that the town's doing something like this for him.
Yeah.
I would think so.
I think so too.
I don't think we've ever had anybody tell us no yet, so.
I think we've had some that were tricky to get them to send anything to us to include.
Well, that might have happened, but that happens. But most people were kind of proud of what people done.
I think I just mixed my, I was like, I just mixed my agenda into my other stuff. Whoops. All right.
So do we have to vote?
Yeah,
We
we
have
had a
to vote.
motion and a second, but no. vote.
Yep, we had a motion and a second. All right,
And the plan B is within a short time frame to solicit.
bring it back to
photos.
the first meeting in February.
Yeah.
How's that? That should give us enough time because it's 3 weeks.
Yeah.
All you need is
Bring it back to
photos
the
and
next meeting in
photos.
January.
Right. All right, Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
All right, Barbara,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Dan.
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses. All right, next up, we have the warrant, warrant number 1. Well, not warrant number 1, but warrant number 155.
So this will actually not be the last warrant of 2021, because we've still got a few bills trickling in. The next meeting will be the last warrant of 2021, and that will represent all the actuals for 2021.
So the final.
Yes,
Good night, Jack.
Night, Jack, drive careful. All right, so warrant number 155 in the amount of $11,918.85.
I'll make that motion.
Then seconded. It's open for discussion.
I just had a question about the ID maker.
Mhm.
Yeah, I did too. I just didn't know what it was.
I actually looked it up. It's a pretty slick machine
Yeah.
for
So
making
the,
ID cards.
yeah, so the fire department was concerned that their personnel doesn't have any ID badges when they're sort of out in the field and accident scenes
Yeah,
and so forth. So they purchased this in order to do that, but Travis said that he thought it was a good idea, and I agreed that we can make badges for the entire town. So, you know, when the code enforcement officer is out, that
Mhm.
person has an ID badge, or if I'm out, you know, doing something publicly, you know, where I
Right.
can identify myself as the town manager. So
that makes sense.
animal control officer would be another good person to have.
Is it like a magnet thing?
It's more like something you would wear on a lanyard.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when the EMTs and so on go into a house, you know, that they've got,
Sometimes it says they got to write.
it looks a little official.
And they're
Is it
gonna
a
just
tag that they
scan.
got?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Like
we had them for a long time. It's nothing new. I still.
We had some made up quite a few years ago, but we haven't done them made up for quite a while for the fire department.
Yeah,
So anybody new who doesn't have one.
This is a machine that makes them.
Correct.
yeah,
And the biggest thing is the reason we're really pushing it. When we go on a call, we have an N95, safety glasses, sometimes face shield. So it lets the family know, you know, gives a face to when we're in the, you know.
yeah, that you're real.
And who you are too, not just,
Right.
you know. All right,
Okay,
seeing no more discussion. Ricky,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Carol.
yes,
All right, 5 yeses. All right, next up, we have warrant number 1 in the amount of $572,244.81.
I'll make that motion.
All right, moved and seconded. It's open for discussion. This one's a doozy. It's the
Yeah, I was
RSU
gonna say, Pay
18.
it quick. for
It's the
Warren
school
Brother
and the
changes their
plowing.
mind.
So warrant number 1, whew, get it right out of the way.
Yep.
All right, seeing no further discussion. Barbara,
Yeah.
Carol,
Yes,
Ricky,
Yes,
Dan.
Yes,
All right, 5 yeses. All right, next up, we are at the town manager's report.
All right, so I just have two things. I got a email this morning asking if we were going to include the potential $12,000 gift to the first responders memorial as part of the operating budget. I had a discussion with this person, suggesting that probably should be its own separate warrant article because it's not really an operational cost. And so just want to make sure, and I did actually include this in what I sent a little earlier, but assuming that you guys do want to consider a warrant article.
I didn't see anything earlier. I was
Well,
crazy
no,
busy today.
It's
I didn't know there was a $12,000 donation.
No, remember when Matt Stocco was here?
Yeah,
And so they're doing the fundraising. And I think that they achieved whatever their goal was.
okay, I thought you were like, this $12,000 donation had come in, and do we have to
No, no, no,
include
no,
this?
no.
No,
Okay,
It's
good to know.
putting on the warrant, the town meeting warrant, the possibility of the voters authorizing a $12,000 gift
Right.
toward the first responders memorial. So I did include that as part of the warrant article draft that I sent earlier today. Just want to make sure that you guys are, is that something you want to consider? Maybe tomorrow meeting.
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Also, on Monday, our new part-time deputy clerk, Frank Hagan, started. Many of you may know Frank has lived in the community for more than 30 years.
Yeah.
And he's recently been working at LL Bean, and you can tell he's picked up some excellent customer service skills from being there. He was wonderful with the customers, picked up on stuff very quickly, and so we think he's going to be a great addition.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, yeah, so.
Yeah, a good
And just
guy.
extremely nice and friendly with people. Perfect for that.
And the commute is shorter here than it is to
7
Freeport.
minutes versus an hour. I'm told. So,
And our times are better than.
yeah, yeah. And then lastly, in 6 months, the town manager's contract expires. So I'd like to begin a conversation about whether or not the board wishes me to continue in that role. Because if not, then I'd like to go find some gainful employment in 6 months. Discussing the terms of new contract.
Yep.
That's all I have.
So you don't want to
Well,
wait
yeah.
till like August?
That would be, it'd be preferable to have some idea of what you see my future with the town.
well, I noticed you didn't include in your updates, the questions I had earlier about the shrink wrap boat. So what's going on with that?
Well, I did include that in the email the day after the last.
I remember I left on vacation, so I didn't get a lot of emails. I've been playing catch up ever since. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So we had someone who took it upon himself to shrink wrap the CEO vote. Not what I would have done. Had a conversation about having conversations before we make those sort of decisions.
okay. And the other thing was we had the truck inspection that showed up in here.
Yes.
How many other trucks have we been billed for stuff that we on our stuff?
None that I'm aware of. In fact, I talked with Ricky about this, and Ricky suggested a really good idea that moving forward, all of the invoices and receipts that are turned into the treasurer not only have to have some notes on it detailing what it's from, but also has to be signed. And so I thought that was a good idea to just provide some,
But they have to be signed by,
the director. So if an invoice comes in and it's not signed, then we need to do some searching around.
And if an invoice comes in and it is signed, and it shouldn't have been signed, then we need to do some due diligence.
And if that doesn't work, we may have to go to a purchase order system.
Yeah, I would hate to have to do that because it can be, well, sometimes we need things quickly and a purchase order system doesn't happen quickly, but I understand.
Well, I mean, and it would seem to me as if we do have employees that are repeatedly not getting prior approval, that's part of a evaluation discussion.
It
So,
is.
you know, I mean, you solve the problem, you don't change the rules so that the problem can exacerbate,
Well,
so.
and honestly,
think,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm kind of frustrated with at the dealership for sending something to the town for us to pay that did not have qualifying or identifying information on it that would tell us it was our vehicle. You know, the person I talked about, I was like, who sends an invoice and doesn't clarify what it is?
Yeah, I mean,
You
I go
get
to
a
my
VIN,
oil
you get
change
your
at the dealership,
mileage.
It's got all that vehicle information on it.
Right, your
Yeah.
mileage in, your mileage out. You could have 10 vehicles over 20 years.
Probably a new
and
employee
it's-
who doesn't know all of the stuff they need. I mean, everyone's scrambling to get employees and get them trained, so
Right.
it could very easily be someone who needed it out the door. Doesn't make it right, I'm just
No.
saying,
No.
you know,
So how's that gonna work on your bills? So the bills would go to the treasurer would then email them or to the department heads?
Well, I mean, we have almost daily interaction with the department heads, Bruce, and so let's say that we get a bill from, that's related to the transfer station. When Kenny's in the office, we simply hand it to him and say, we need you to take a look at this, verify it, give us some details about what this is, then hand it back.
Because that's how it used to happen years ago is.
Oh, Pam was a
every
stickler.
department- Yeah. Every
Yes.
department head had to okay every bill before it went to warrant. And I don't know why it ever went.
We've gotten a little lax with some people just wanting to throw things into
Yeah,
the mixed
I mean-
basket.
Right, and it's not you. I mean, this started way happening way back before you was town manager that got lax, you know? We had a treasurer that was very stickler on. She was, everything had to
crossed
be
her
dotted and
Ts and
everything had to be
dotted the
crossed,
Is
or
and-
you didn't get paid.
well, and how many town managers did we have in a row there that just,
Yeah, I mean.
things
You
just,
know, we don't need to throw stones. Let's just make it and move on.
right,
Is there anything else you want to follow
Nope,
up
I
on?
just wanted to find out about that stuff.
And the electricity, we did get that.
We did, yeah, and so that person we think she may be taking in laundry. And so she has agreed to pay an additional $200 as part of her rent each month.
I did see that.
All right. Does anybody have anything else? All right, if not, I'm gonna make a motion that we take a 2-minute break and then we will come back for the executive session.
second,
Sound okay? Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
yeah.
All right, sorry, I have to do that individually.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate everyone. And by you guys, I just need to- Oh, you're all right. Thanks for all your work.
It's gonna do that.
Just so we get it.
Bruce, are we doing any update on that? Can you just give the light to the board so they know what's going on?
On the what?
So you ready? You said you were gonna talk about.
Yeah, I didn't get a price back from Mike today.
Okay.
That's hoping for, but, I'm just. 4,000 extra on that line item. Gas station patrol cleaning.
Not that big.
No.
I think 4,000 will cover it.
It's both same as National system. I just did the national system. It's these, but
I should have brought those,
so-
my papers for the select board.
You were